皆さんおはようございます。先週は敬老ヘルスケアセンターの売却反対側の半田俊夫さんのお話を伺いました。その訳も分かりました。今日は売却側のここのセンターのプレジデントのショーン・ミヤケさんのお話も伺いたいと思いましてセンターへ参りました。この後三宅さんのお話を伺いたいと思います。三宅さん、Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you too.
How long have you been running this senior home? Must be a
Yeah.
long time. I remember I met you a long time ago
Yes, almost at the beginning. It's been over 21 years now
when you started.
when I started, yeah. And I was drawn to Cato because I wanted to serve the community and give back. And I'd been in healthcare for a long time before that, about 15
Your
years.
career,
Yes,
so in
right.
healthcare.
Yes, right.
So when you accept this position, this job, were you very excited?
I was really excited, yeah. I was excited to learn more about the Japanese community.
It's the first time you deal with the Japanese community, the seniors.
Yes, very much. And very excited. I had some relatives who were living here at the time. And so I was very excited to be able to do something to help them, as well as help other people throughout Southern California.
I remember this facility was owned by a Jewish community a long time ago.
Right, yeah. It
And
was the first Jewish home in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And at the time, they decided their community was changing. And so they decided to move to Reseda. And it provided a wonderful opportunity for Wada-san and Aratani-san to purchase the facility on behalf of the community.
And that's how it started.
And that's how it all started a while ago.
So it seems to me that things always come to sort of the environment is changing, the times are changing,
Right.
and something got to be changed. Our life is changing too.
Oh, yeah.
So it seems to me that the Cairo Senior Home is facing that stage at this moment, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
After 20 some years?
Right.
Isn't that too short?
Too short. Well, the organization has been going on for 50 some odd years now, right? Since 1961. And at that time, the founders felt that the community was going to eventually change. Now, what they couldn't predict at that time was when. And so over the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of changes in our community.
For example, can you give us?
Yeah, so there's much more multiracial couples. I think the majority of children, maybe almost 75% of children today under the age of 19 are multiracial, which means they have multiracial, mixed race couple. And that impacts what happens here at Cato. We think that in time, in the next, maybe 6, 7, 8 years, that the demand for Cato services are going to change. And they'll be less needed. People want to stay at home longer. Yeah.
So in other words, when 21 years ago, when you took over this job, the condition, the environment, everything situation is changed, has been drastically changed.
It really has, yeah. When I first came here 20 years ago, there was a 1 to 5 year waiting list to get into the retirement home.
Is that right?
Hundreds of people
I
were
heard about
waiting,
it.
right?
Long waiting list.
Right, and so one of the greatest myths today is that there's a waiting list. Well, today there's anywhere from 10 to 12 empty apartments at any time. If some of the viewers want to come into the retirement home, they should call me tomorrow because there's open rooms.
Miyake-san, I heard that one time, because not too many Japanese residents here, so expanded to a non-Japanese population. That's what I had heard.
Yeah, so it depends on which level of care we're talking about. If we talk about the retirement home, over the last decade, the number of new applicants has dropped by 80%.
Oh my.
So now we don't even get enough new applicants every year to replace the residents who are leaving. In the nursing homes, when it comes to the type of care that healthcare is moving to, which is kind of post-hospital care, very short stay. Today, that program is only 25% occupied. So we've seen some dramatic changes.
So in other words, if, people in the community are kind of feeling sad, I believe that this is our heritage, this is our tradition. Why this facility is going to hand it to somebody else's hand, and somebody else is not even Japanese.
Right, yeah. So change is difficult for everyone, and we understand that. And so the board of directors, as well as management here, over years of study, this isn't something that just happened over the last 2 weeks. This has been going on now for probably 6 or 7 years.
Really?
Yes. And
Is there any communication between community and your administration?
right, yeah. So we've been publishing stories in our newsletters as well as
Indeed.
doing press releases in the print media or the newspapers. And what we've been trying to explain to the community is that the community is changing, healthcare is changing, and all these changes are going to eventually force Cato to focus on not only Japanese but the wider community. And so the board was very much concerned about that. They wanted to protect Japanese community. So they made the difficult decision to sell the facilities. Now, in doing that, they wanted to make sure that the interests of the residents in particular and the families was protected, as well as the larger community.
That's the most important.
Yeah,
People
so
in the community
very
cares.
careful work. And so as we worked with the Attorney General of California, she also shared our concern for the Japanese community. And when she approved the sale, she established conditions that made sure that the rights and the interests of all the residents were protected.
Because I remember, I heard that when first time the Attorney General's office didn't approve it, and now
Right.
this is the second time and she approved it.
Right.
Now, can you tell us why the Attorney General's office changed their mind?
Yeah, so in the first sale that we went before the Attorney General, she was concerned enough for the Japanese community that she felt that a better buyer could be found.
Also,
And-
at that time, the buyer and this time buyer is different.
Right,
I
right,
see.
yeah.
I
So
see.
that first time, while we were sad because we had done a lot of work with the Attorney General, we agreed that we should go back out and try to find another buyer who the Attorney General would feel a little more comfortable with, And so we thought that that was fine. We accepted that decision at that time. We then went back out into the community. What was important about that first sale was that the community was informed by Cato. We held a number of meetings over about a 2-year period, and it included an open public comment period. And so she received feedback from the community as to what they wanted to see going forward.
So, your administration or your office certainly had go through all the proper procedure in
Right.
order to make sure that this nursing home is going to the right person's right hand.
Right, yeah. So that process is a very thorough, a very tough process. If anybody has ever gone through something like that, and I wouldn't recommend it, it's very difficult. And so what we found was that the questions being asked, that many of the questions posed by the Attorney General were to protect the Japanese community and
That's
to make
good.
sure, that culturally sensitive care would continue
Yes.
at Cato.
I see. Well, Miyake-san, let's take a break, and
Okay.
then after that, then please tell me more about the board of thinking selling this facility.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay.
Miyake-san, you probably very well aware that people in the community are so upset about this Cairo nursing home to be sold. And do you think you can understand their feeling?
Yes, yeah. We understand that change is very, very difficult. And what people should know is that the board of directors and the staff were very careful to consider what was going to be happening to the residents. And so we wanted to make sure that they were protected and that the quality of the care that they receive today would stay very similar going forward. And so what happened was that agreements were made with the buyers, and the Attorney General established conditions that essentially hired all the employees, so the people that they work with today, they will work with in the future.
そのままthe same.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And then all the volunteers were encouraged to stay, and we made sure that the quality of services, Japanese food, activities, celebration of Japanese holidays, all the resources that we have on the campus here would be the same going forward. And the buyers were very pleased to be able to accommodate us, and we were very excited. They're so cooperative and very, very nice. As a matter of fact, the residents have already met the new management, and they, I think, were very pleased to hear what their plans were going forward.
There's another concern from the community is apparently for next 5 years, it will remain the same. People are saying, what would happen after 5 years?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
What do you think? Is there any? Well, of course, I remember that town hall meeting that there's nothing nobody can guarantee after 5 years.
Right.
And that's another thing that people in the community really aware and they really worry about. What do you think?
Yeah, what we know is that over the next 5 to 10 years, that things are going to stay pretty much the same here. The Japanese community is a strong community. They will continue to use the facilities. So as long as the community has a need and an interest in using the Cato facilities, the buyers are very excited to keep doing the same thing, that the same level of quality, the same culturally sensitive care will continue well into the future. So we've had conversations with the buyers, and they're excited to do that.
So after the new buyer take over, is there anybody or anyone in current administration office kind of work as a, well, I shouldn't say watchdog, but make sure that they really carry out their promise?
Right, yeah. So the administrators who work today will be hired. So we have the same
I see.
senior management in place, and then we also have a community advisory board that's going to be created. And so we're very excited to have the input of the community on an ongoing basis. And that's going to be somebody who will make sure that compliance is 100%.
So community advisory board, are you considering including those people who are currently raising a voice that they don't want to have this
Right.
facility sold?
Right, yeah. So we made an overture just last week to the community group, and we invited them to give us names for people for up to 3 seats on the community advisory board so that they could continue to ensure that some of the concerns that they've voiced have been met, and that will be somebody will be monitoring that going forward.
I think people in the community really feel kind of sad that more than 50 years, and Wada Isamu-san and Aratani-san, all those people, they're all in the heaven, and they work so hard. Then not only both of them, but there are so many people involved in the community. But there's no choice because times are changing, and economic, social, everything is changing. So have no choice. In order, like you said, in order to maintain the same quality, care about the senior citizens, there's no choice that we have to leave to somebody else. There's no any other way that Japanese people in the Japanese community or Japanese American, everybody pitch in and work together and pull this through. You haven't thought of that?
Yeah, so that was part of the discussion that occurred over the last 6 years, and the board of directors thought long and hard. It was a very difficult decision, very emotionally difficult decision. And so they reflected back on what Mr. Wada and Mr. Aratani said to us 30 years ago. And Mr. Wada mentioned that he felt that in the generations to come, that change was going to be coming. He didn't know what the change.
He realized it.
Oh, he realized it. He said the Sanseis don't think the same as the Niseis and the Issei. Mr. Aratani, 50 years ago, was having dinner with his family, and he said to his family, I think in 50 years that things are going to change, and that Cato has to continually be vigilant and aware to continue to meet the changing needs in the community. He wasn't sure at 50 years ago what that was going to look like, but they thought something like that could, in fact, happen. So, yeah.
Miyake-san, also somebody said that, well, after the processing of this transaction, and Cato Senior Home should have some proceed.
Yes.
Now, what would this proceed go, or is there any way that people might want to build another Japanese senior home at someplace else, or is there any idea for the board of board member and YouTube?
Right, yeah. So the board currently is involved in future planning, way into the future. And there are a lot of ideas being discussed right now. It will take another few months before they have anything to announce to the community. But one thing that we want to make everybody aware of right now is that they have an opportunity to give us input. So we have an email address called planningforthefuture@cato.org. And we encourage the community to give us feedback as to what they would like to see happen. And they can mail it to us at Planning for the Future, 325 South Boyle Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90033. And we encourage the community to give us creative ideas. There's so many ways that the community is needing service, and we want to be able to serve all the different thoughts and ideas that people have, and we encourage that.
Well, my final question to you is, Miyake-san, what are you going to do from now on? What is your plan?
Yeah, so me personally, I want to stay involved with Cato. I would like to continue to volunteer. Certainly, after 20 years of working here, I've grown very close to a lot of the residents and families here, and I want to continue to make sure that they get the absolute best care possible.
So you start as a career of a nursing home administrator, and then you probably end up with
volunteer. And so I really look forward to that. That's something that would be very fulfilling for me, I think, going forward.
I see.
Yeah.
How about your staff over here? Everybody thinking the same?
Well, you know, many of the staff here I've worked with for 20 years, and they're probably starting to develop plans for retirement and for their longer future. So they haven't given me all the secrets away yet. So.
Maybe some will stay with you and do as a volunteer too.
Yeah,
huh?
I hope so. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I really hope that Japanese community, Japanese American community, will stay the same, and everybody peace and happy and talk, and without all kinds of commotion. And because
yeah, you know, I would just encourage everyone. This is a time of unity. You know, we can do something about the future. Let's move together, hand in hand, and let's participate. Let's be a part of the wonderful opportunities that Cato has to begin to serve our community in new and special ways.
That's how it started.
Yes, absolutely.
It should
Exactly.
continue.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Miyake-san.
Thank you.